Welcome to another episode of Final Notice Podcast. Today we have a special one. I have two of my sisters on here. We have a very special topic that we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, I would like Aaron to introduce himself, and then we're going to let our sisters also introduce themselves as well.
Hey, what's up, ladies? What's up, JoJo? Happy Wednesday. Just happy to be amongst the living, man. It's a long week. We had a half a day, at work today, but I'm grateful for that. But I got this kitchen project that I'm working on, and hopefully I can get it done by the weekend. But I'm here, man. How about yourself? How you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good, man. I'm just excited to have two of our beautiful sisters come on here to be open, transparent, and talk about their experiences and something that works for them in their process of where they are right now in their lives. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Miss Ebony go ahead and introduce herself, and then I'm going to have my sister Caprice introduce herself as well.
Hello, I'm Ebony. I live in the in Maryland, also known as DMV. I've been married for 10 years. I have three boys, so a lot of energy over here. And I love to cook, and I love all things food, and that's all it. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Miss Caprice, if you can introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Caprice. I live in Maryland as well. I'm newly married, 5 months in.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. And we have 3 kids and 2 grandkids.
Okay, nice. Um, wow. So two women, two from the DMV, Maryland. Caprice, I think we went to school together. We graduated same class, right?
Duval, yep.
Yep. So that's how I met you, and I remember you from Duval. And Ebony, I met you at a protest.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, we met at a protest. To stop, when George Floyd had passed 2020, we did a protest out there in Laurel, and that's where I met Ebony. And small world. She's married to a brother of mine that I used to go to church with, and man, it's a small world. So I'm definitely glad that you guys are here. Definitely a pleasure, and I know somebody's going to be blessed from this conversation. Again, this is not a right or wrong conversation. It is something that works for you. This is your personal experience, and what you're giving out is people. If people can take it and apply it, and it may work for them, or it may not work for them. Everything is not for everybody. But it is an open conversation where it is a live interacting podcast. So you will get comments. So we do reply to that. And if anybody have a question about anything that we say, you can either directly message us, or you can ask to, talk to the guests that we have on the show. But before I do that, I know, Ebony, you have your own business, right? You want to talk a little bit about that and how they can follow you?
Yeah, sure. So I have a luxurious indoor and outdoor picnic business based in the DMV. We service Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And so it can be for any occasion: birthdays, anniversary, girls' night out, boys' night out, whatever. And you can find me on Instagram. My name on Instagram is WUCO, so WCO DMV, and I'm also on Facebook as well under the same name.
Okay, so
But yeah,
this IG tag that you sent with at Nod the Foodie, is that a good one they can follow you on?
so that one is my food page. So that's my food creator page where I, post all my creations that I make. It's not the norm. It's different. Like you can find different kinds of things that's not typical. That's my food page. But my other the other name that you have is my picnic business page. But yeah,
Okay, we'll share that on there too as well. Awesome. So, ladies, today we have you guys on here, right? Because last couple of podcast episodes ago, we did one for the fellas. Go ahead, Ernie. Something like you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I was going to say to Miss Caprice, like, if you don't want anybody stalking you, You might want to take your work badge off. You know, nobody come here showing, you be up there and they're like, oh, where's she work at? They be all up in your business. So we see your work badge on there, you know what I'm saying?
I just walked in the door.
Oh man, I understand how it goes. But I also wanted to shout out Latoya White. She's the wonderful wife of a great brother, Marlon White, and they have a beautiful daughter, and Mimi. And she's the one that made us our shirts. You know what I'm saying? So I just said I was going to put our link in the last show, but this is what it is. If anybody want to check it out, catch her on Facebook, Latoya White, and that is Mimi's mom. So that's it, man.
Awesome. So we have you guys on here because a couple of podcast episodes ago, we did one for the men. And what we did was, we talked to the fellas in regards to, their perspective or their role or what their expectation of a woman's role in a marriage is. And it would only be fair if we got the ladies' perspective, right? So we know we have our perspective, but we want to know what your perspective is, because I feel like times have changed where a lot of things have changed dramatically when it comes to this M word, right? I think like a lot of us either use it loosely, a lot of us don't respect it the way it should be respected. A lot of us are either tradition or non-tradition. And I think people need to understand that everybody has a perspective on what things look like to them nowadays and how it works for them. So today's conversation is women's role in marriage, but from your perspective. Okay, and I think Aaron got a couple of questions that he's going to want to start off with, and then we're going to dive into it. And this is the part one. So we have other guests that are going to be coming on, but we wanted to kind of like get you two on it because I feel like you two kind of like, I like the energy that you guys brought. I felt the spirit that this was the right two to start the episodes with at least with this conversation.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thank you again, ladies, for coming on. I know we got a chance to talk to Miss Ebony earlier, and thank you, Miss Caprice, for showing up. The first question I guess I wanted to ask was that, like, what are your backgrounds? Like, when you was growing up and, was marriage one of those things? A lot of women, they grow up the fairy tale image of marriage and wanting to get married and things like that. So I guess if y'all can go into y'all background, how y'all viewed marriage before y'all got married, and then just bring us up to that.
You want to go first?
You want to go first? You start first?
Yeah, I can start first. So growing up, I don't know if I ever really said that I wanted to get married. That wasn't like a big thing to me. My mom and dad was married as I came up as a child, but it was never a big thing as into being married, more so as in being married just to have the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
That was my perspective as growing up as a child in marriage.
So it was just the wedding? That's cool. So is your mom and your dad still together today?
No, my mom and dad are actually not together anymore.
Okay. So did you watch them? Like, was it like when you was younger or older?
Oh, I was grown with kids when my mom and dad separated.
Okay. All right, that's
They
cool.
were married for over 20-something years. Yeah.
Wow. Now, congratulations to them. God bless them. That's sad.
I know.
Yeah, marriage is I tell people all the time, marriage was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. It just, things happen and it is what it is. All right, Miss Ebony, you?
So I come from a very unconventional thought process of marriage. I am a product of my parents were not married. My dad has 7 children by 4 different women, and then my birth mother has 8 children with I can't even explain it. It's a lot. So when I was growing up, I was actually afraid of marriage. I didn't even picture myself being capable of being in a committed relationship for an extended period of time. I didn't have any sorry if you hear my kids screaming in the background, but I didn't have any positive influences in my life in terms of marriage. So it was very important to me that when I grew up that I would kind of like create that space for myself. Like I didn't want my kids to go through what I experienced. I didn't see my parents hug and kiss or show affection, or I just didn't have it. So yeah, that's my background. But yeah, I never intended on getting, I didn't think I would be able to do it.
It's weird. You'd be surprised. It's surprising to me to hear women say that. Like, you're not the only one that I know who said their parents never showed affection growing up. Like even if my grandparents, right? They, from the time I want to say I was born until my grandfather passed away, because he passed away first, I've never even seen them like sleep in the same room. So it's like one of those things. I feel like when you look in your past, as far as trying to build relationships in the future, it kind of, to me, it makes me wonder like the generational things that could have been passed down, what I'm saying, that affects us, our points of views of marriage. So I guess I would ask, like, what kind of role did y'all fathers play in y'all life?
My father played a big role in my life. My father is still involved in my life, my kids' life right now. He was always there. He wasn't. My father has always been the affectionate one, more so than my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my father played a decent role, dad role in my life coming up.
You ever?
So my dad is African. He's from Ghana. So like he's a provider, anything needed, like monetary things, he always provided. He was also very, he was affectionate, but like I was saying, it's a lot of, I have siblings, like I have siblings that their moms also have kids with other men. It's like kind
It's a
of
lot.
chaotic. So it
Right.
is. So like my birth mom, he like after I was like 2, he wasn't with her anymore. He was with another person who I call mom, and she raised me. So
Okay.
yeah, I never saw them enter like have any kind of relationship at all. But my dad, so speaking of which, I was like, man, I'm gonna be a player. I'm gonna be like my dad. I'm not gonna get married. Like marriage's not for me. Yo, like I can't do that. Like that was my mindset, because I was like, my dad did all this stuff. That means it's gonna happen to me, like karma. So I was like, I had my guard up, like the way that I'm gonna get married, because then I'm gonna get hurt, just like how all the other women did and whatever. But he was very supportive. Education was also a big factor that he promoted, and I couldn't get anything below C's in school. Had to go to college. All of that. So in terms of like support, in terms of like reverence, like I was, he's African, so I was afraid. You gotta do things right. In terms of that kind of atmosphere, he's been great. But like on terms of like building relationships and like the proper way of how to like cultivate a healthy relationship, he was not the like even to this day I don't go for him to like for advice. Like what would
Right.
you do if you were in, like, because I don't, he's older now, he's 73, but I just
Okay.
feel like if his whole life he was not able to really like provide that kind of like foundation for me, I don't feel like I should go talk to him about like marriage stuff. Like other
Makes
stuff,
sense.
fine, but not marriage stuff. Yeah.
Well, you obviously got some good advice. You 10 toes down in 10 years, so that's awesome.
So
Yeah. Thanks.
I got a question because it's very interesting to hear a woman's perspective, just even coming into the conversation, just the things that I'm hearing, especially from Caprice and also from you, Ebony, is very important because I feel like, at least from my perspective as a male, I've never heard a woman say some of the things that you were saying, not in a negative way. I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I'm saying that it's very interesting to hear a different side of the approach to marriage, right? Because one, men are always taught to raise their men. I never knew how important a man's role is for their daughters. And hearing two strong women like yourselves, articulate exactly the relationships or what you guys saw from your dad coming up is very, very important to me as a Black man, because I have two daughters. So I want to make sure that whatever you guys are putting out here, at least to me, if it's not for anybody else, it's for me, I can take that to make sure that I put that energy in a positive way for my daughters, for them to see me in a different light, right? How did you know? My question to you guys is, if Caprice, you saw that, you just wanted a wedding, right? You just wanted a wedding. You saw the experience from your mom and your dad, and you just knew this is what I want. I wanted that wedding, right?
Yeah.
And Ebony, you saw that, my dad is, I got to put this wall up. I might be just like my dad, right? How did you know? How did you know that the guys that you guys are married to now, the wonderful brothers that you guys are married to now, how did you know he was the right one?
Me personally, as I stated, that I'm newly married, but me and my husband been together for 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been together for 20 years before we actually got married. So to say that he was the one, of course, I couldn't say that 10 years, 20 years ago, but I knew being with someone, because I haven't been with anyone else, but I knew that he was the one. Just the interaction that we had amongst each other, some of the conversations, some of the ups and the downs that we've had with each other and stuck with each other through that. I think that right there was already, given that he was the one.
So why 20 years? Because the TD Jakes and the Steve Harveys in the world now, they telling these women that, if they ain't together and they ain't proposing to you after 2 years, they just playing around. So, but you was with this guy for 20 years, you know what I'm saying? So what made you, what took so long, and then what made you stay with him that long?
That's not a question for me about what took so long.
So
that's
it was
a
up to
question
you.
for him. That's the question for him about what took so long. But what made us stay together, because like I said, it was still, it was always love there, no love lost. We went through what we went through to build our relationship stronger.
Was you comfortable in that situation?
Sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't.
Right. It was no part of you was like, man, I just wish he would go ahead and just pop this question down.
Of course. For years. I think I practiced me saying yes for probably about 5 years before it actually happened. And when it finally happened, I didn't know what to say.
That's awesome.
That's really interesting. Ebony, how did you know my brother? I know he's a good, fine looking brother, and he's from your country, and he's a hard worker, and he goes to church, and he's an awesome dad to the boys. How did you know, aside of me saying all of that, how did you know when you first laid eyes, he was the one for you and not remind you of your dad?
So, to be honest, I did not think he was the one. I was just having fun, you know what I mean? I was born and raised in Chicago, so I moved here to Maryland. I was gonna go to law school. Plans changed, but then he worked with my older brother at Pep Boys, and so when I would visit my brother, on his breaks and stuff, I would see him there, and so it was kind of like, okay, we were just talking a little bit, and then things move so quickly. Things move really fast, and it's just his vibe. I feel like I can be my authentic self with him. I'm super silly. He matches that. Not that he's not matches, but he let me be me, and I don't have to feel like I have to suppress who I am when I'm with him, I guess. And I did tell him all, he's heard a lot of stories about my dad and how I grew up and stuff. And I brought those to him, and I was like, when things were getting serious and we were talking about kids, I was like, first of all, you're African. I'm very scared of you. You guys don't change diapers. You don't wake up with. I told him all of that. I was like, you know what? It's not going to work for me. we need to like come to an agreement, come to like a medium here, because I'm not going to go for that. Like, I'm just not. So I told him up front, and he was like, yeah, I'm not going to be like that. I promise, I don't know what to help you feel secured, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be super active. And I can gladly say he is very active, and he's been a great support and everything. And like, I didn't know he was the one, but it just flowed. Like, it just flowed. And that's my story.
If I'm hearing it correctly, it wasn't something that you planned, and you kind of like you went with the wave with him.
Hey,
right, exactly.
Jojo, you gotta explain why these African men got bad reps, man.
So I was going to clarify something, though. I was going to say something. When it comes to changing diapers, not all Africans don't like changing diapers. I change diapers for all of my kids. I wake up in the middle of the night, do what I was supposed to. The only thing I couldn't do for my kids is breastfeed. That's it. Everything else, the bathing. Now, when they tiny, like newborn, I'm not gonna cap. I take the poopy, diapers out. I'll take that out. But all that touching them when they're that small, I feel like I was too aggressive to touch the kids. Now, when they get like 2 months, yeah, give them here. Them 3 months, give them here. I do the swaddle. I did all that. You know what I'm saying? So
it's funny. My husband said the same thing, but like, my bad.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Can I talk? No, it's funny because my husband said the same thing. Like, when they were super small, he was like scared because he didn't want to like break a bone or something. But I just I showed him how to hold them properly, and then he felt a little bit better. But yeah, for the first like couple of weeks, he was like, no, I'm scared. I don't want to like hurt the baby.
I think that's every guy.
I think that's every guy.
Yeah, bro, my daughter to this day, well, maybe once or twice afterwards, but my daughter was like the first baby I held. Like, I wasn't trying to hold any babies. Matter of fact, I got a picture of her. I'm gonna send it to you, JoJo. I'm holding her like so frail. I'm scared. Like, the doctor just gave it to me, and I'm holding her like my big arms. She's so small. I'm holding like a football, like I'm trying to tuck her or something, man. I was just so afraid. So yeah, those are the great times.
So I got a question. So we talked a little bit about, how you knew he was the right one. Caprice, you shared with us how long you was with your now husband before y'all actually tied a knot. So you newlywed, congratulations, 5 months in. Ebony, you guys are 10 years in, right? So given the background and given the histories of the positive traumas and the negative traumas that you guys have gone through or seen through your upbringings, right? What did you think your role in the marriage was for your husband?
So the role, I mean, because, okay, so I don't know, because my mom seemed like she was more so of the dominant one in the relationship that's coming up. So my mom was the one who handled a lot of things. So, I mean, I don't think it was any different to what I feel like. I feel as though,
tough question, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna let Ebony handle this, and I'm gonna come back.
Yeah, because I got a follow-up question. I got a good follow-up question for you. Go ahead.
All right. So, like I told you, I was born and raised in Chicago, right? At some point, when I was 11, I went and stayed in Ghana for 4 years, right? That's what my dad let me do. I went to school there and met his side of the family, blah, blah, blah. So when I came back, right, like my mindset shifted. So basically, I feel like I'm torn. I'm American, but I'm also African. Like, it's like, so sometimes it's like, I feel like I don't know, like, it's like confusing kind of, but so I naturally want to follow like the African way of how a woman should be with her husband, or like let's be specific, like Ghanaian way, I guess. So I mean, being submissive to an extent, not that I'm being disrespectful or anything, but allowing the man to lead, be the head of the household, be supportive, in that aspect. I just naturally gravitated towards that. I didn't know what else to be like, because I didn't like, again, I don't have any kind of positive experience, like anybody that I know, like in my family that's married and they've been successful at being married. So it was like I just had to learn as I went, I guess. And from my in-laws, of course, they modeled that for us too, because my in-laws were together for over 20 years before my mother-in-law passed away. So, I would seek guidance from her, and she would always refer to the Bible, you know how old Africans are, but not that it's a bad thing, but that's what they always do. And, I would listen. And some things I was just like, no, I agree to this, but she'd be like, nah, it's okay. Just, it'll get better with time, because I'm not gonna sit here and say like the whole time it's just been like roses and lilies. No, in the beginning stages of your marriage, you're gonna experience a lot of getting to know one another, like things that annoy you, things that annoy him, so it's a lot of learning in the beginning, and it could be trying, of course, and it was trying, and that's why I sought refuge in like talking to my in-laws, because they were the only people that that could offer me, like good advice. So I basically just naturally went that way, I guess. I didn't, and just learned as I went. But yeah, and then of course he communicated. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry. I thought you was done.
Sorry. Of course, he also communicated to me like how he would want me to support him, how we should be together in our marriage. Of course, those talks had to be had. But yeah,
wow.
That's pretty.
So you say he told you how you could support him in marriage?
We talked together about how we needed each other to support one another in our marriage. So it was both ways. Like, for example, like I told him, I was like, I don't like when, like, for example, use the kid thing, that, for example, like I was like, I want you to be real involved with the kid, like certain conversations like that, just so that it's plain sight and you know what the expectations are. So, because I mean, if I didn't have that conversation, I would have just assumed he would do XYZ, right? And what if he didn't do it? Then it's like I set myself up because we didn't have that conversation. So
right,
yeah.
So I'm sitting here loving the contrasts in y'all stories, and it's kind of weird because it's like I'm like JoJo. I've never heard some of these things before or understood these type of perspectives. Only even the ones that I was trying to get to know in relationships with, I don't even think that they fully opened up about some of those things. So it was like very interesting to hear. But I guess I was going to ask is as far as like y'all foundation, I know Caprice was saying that, it wasn't really too much there, as far as the foundation goes, or the outlook of marriage. And then Ebony, you saying that you got a lot of yours from your mother-in-law. So I guess I would ask Caprice, like, what was your foundation as far as, I guess, the structure and how you view marriage? And Ebony, what the advice that your mother-in-law gave you, how did you receive that, and did you see the results from it?
Okay.
So from me, my perspective on how I view marriage, I mean, like, can you explain more what you mean?
Like when you said you didn't have a lot of like people pouring into you to give you that outline or that point of view of marriage?
No, my mom and dad, like I said before, my mom and dad was married. My grandmother and grandfather was married for over 30 years before my granddad passed. So I've had a lot of people. My aunt, my uncle are still married.
So they was the ones that was pouring into you?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of, but again, as I stated, my mom has always been more so of the dominant one. My mother has always been more so of the outspoken one. Like my mom, she'll say, "Quit. Marriage ain't." I mean, like I mean, that's just what.
So.
And unfortunately, to me, that is the reason why a lot of the Black community fell apart. You know what I'm saying? Because it's basically like, well, now you don't need the man. And then like you bring in the welfare system and all this other stuff, and they make it seem like you're more independent. So I get that point of view. Now that one I have heard a lot. So unfortunately,
Yeah. So I was like, I was told that for quite a while.
so I guess what I was asking, I'm sorry, is like, what's your belief? Did you have like God? Did you have some kind of like a spiritual foundation outside of your family giving you those informations?
No,
Okay.
no.
The reason why I asked because it was like me, I have, and I'm sure JoJo has, and Ebony from what she was saying. That's why I was asking her those questions from her mother-in-law. It was like it's like a principle, you know what I'm saying? Like these are the foundations and the points of views that I built this off. And unfortunately, it happened after I got married. Now it was some things that people was telling me, and it was some things that, but when I looked around me, I like most of us, we didn't have those positive influence. Now I did have my godparents, and my stupid tail, and that's what I regret the most, is really not sitting around them and really getting the information around them. And at one point in time, we lived right up the street from them, and that's and that was one of my biggest regrets of the whole thing because I didn't really have people to pour into me. So I guess that's what I was saying. So my story kind of sound like your story a little bit. You know what I'm saying? As far as like you getting all these different opinions and these different points of views, but I did not have really like the spiritual foundation because when you listen to man and you listen to the people, like that can go anyway.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
so Ebony, you want to answer that question? Because I got a question for Caprice after your response.
So the question was that I received the advice from my mother-in-law, right?
Like, how did you receive? Like,
Like,
did you after receiving her pointing to you and giving you that, I guess that the other side of what marriages look like, and them giving you that advice, and you taking it? Did you see the results of what they poured into you?
so yeah, absolutely. I was eager to learn because I didn't have anything else to learn from. You know, you read a book, you see things on social media. It's not written. Plus, that was 10 years ago, so social media wasn't really like how it is now, like Instagram and stuff. But I mean, I made a decision. I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to be like my parents. So I held that. That was my like fire under my butt. Like, I got to get this right. So if someone's going to tell me, if someone's going to give me advice, I'm going to listen. Like it could, I mean, of course you use your judgment to make sure like what they're saying is correct. Like if someone said, they did it to you, you do it back. Like, of course that's not something I would like keep, but and just like how in so the advice came more so after we got married, of course, and then like things came up and we're trying to figure things out. But yeah, I definitely her advice and my father-in-law's advice definitely helped a lot because they offer first of all they always tied it to the Bible. So and then also like it just represented like our culture, like how we are, and so I gravitated towards that, and it did help a lot. So,
And
yeah.
if you are watching, I mean, again, welcome to Finding Orders podcast. We are streaming live on YouTube and also on Facebook. It's a live interacting podcast. So if you have any questions, comments, you can always leave them. We'll read them, and then we'll also answer those questions. From Ebony, from your side, I'm African, both mom and dad, straight Ghanaian. And I think a lot of our culture has dishonored our women in so many different ways, where we have forced our our moms, our sisters and cousins, girl cousins, aunties, to stay in really unhealthy marriages and based off of their culture, right? So I totally understand your fear, or that at least at one time fear you had before God gave you your knight in shining armor, right? Because we are forced to stay in these marriages. At least the women are, because at that time, for women to say, you know what, I'm unhappy, this is not what I want to leave, it was really considered taboo. You had to stay, you had to stay, you had to stay. And it goes the same way to some extent in American culture too as well, where back then, as we started the conversation, a lot of the traditions has changes, where our grandmothers, right, Caprice, our grandmothers, our aunties, our moms, they were forced to stay in some of these marriages because back then it's the same thing in America where, you didn't, if you didn't stay in that marriage and you left, you was looked at as a failure, right? You had a failed marriage, right? My question that I want to follow with you, Caprice, is that you said something that's really important, because a lot of us nowadays, we take things for what we feel like it's the right thing, right? we look at man is supposed to be the most dominant. We supposed to be the dominant, right? And in your situation, you saw the roles being reversed.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about 2023 where a lot of the roles has been reversed. We're talking about back when your mom 20, 30 years ago when they were married, right? She was the dominant one. So were you seeing that at a young age? Did you also feel like you had to be dominant one in your marriage or when you got married?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how do your husband, how do your husband?
Well, I didn't say that's how it is. That's
Oh, okay.
Hey, yeah, take us through that though. Like, how did he receive that? I mean, because he obviously been around for 20
No,
years.
that's not how it is.
Okay.
Coming up, that's how I thought that it was supposed to be.
Okay.
But
So
it's
you say you fixed
not
that
how it
before you
is.
got married? Did you fix that before you got married, or
Yes.
while you were going through the court process?
Way before we got married.
How did you view your dad in that perspective then?
Soft, a sucker. Like it was always like my mom told him what to do.
Wow.
Like, you know, it was always that.
Did that shape your point of view from like your husband? Like, oh, I ain't marrying no sucker. I ain't marrying no soft man. Or would you like, I want a soft man so I can control?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I think that's what made me, you know, feel that way. Because I was
the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hey, you know Caprice, I know Caprice from high school. I don't know Caprice outside of high school. I know Caprice when we was in high school. She would tell you exactly what it is. Her and her beautiful sister, they were, you know, they don't right? So it's very interesting. I like I said, it's really wonderful to hear y'all perspective from certain things. I got a question because I think Ebony, you touched up on this a little bit. You said when it came to kids with my brother, you know what I'm saying? You had a conversation with him, right? You had a conversation because you wanted to make sure that he was going to be here to do his part with the kids, right? So when it comes to kids, right now I know my wife says she don't want no more kids, and by the grace of God, my daughter, my 4-year-old beautiful daughter, has convinced me not to even want to try that. So, y'all know what I'm saying. She is a boss of bosses. When it comes to the kids, like certain things like that, like who makes that really decision? Like how does that decision even get talked about?
What decision on who
as far as like having children?
We talk about it each and every time.
No, I mean our kids are all of our kids. Our youngest is 13.
Okay.
He'll be 13 in June. So of course we knew years ago that we didn't want any more after, you know, my son. But I think the women are more so the ones who make that choice of if they want more kids or not. That's just my opinion.
So all your kids are together with your husband?
My oldest daughter is not.
Okay.
Yes, my oldest daughter isn't. But we have a 19-year-old finished her first year of college.
Hey.
A 13-year-old. And he has a son as well outside of our marriage. And he's 25.
Okay.
Yep.
So if he came home one day, he just, you know,
no.
Okay.
Those circumstances.
You didn't even finish. You
said, no, don't even think about it.
No.
So, Ebony, if you can kind of like dive in a little bit more as far as like, you know, how that conversation went, because you had an interesting experience in regards to seeing your dad, you know, have multiple children. Not just your dad, your mom also had different multiple kids, right? So how did you, you know, how did you have that conversation with my brother in regards to even outside of being, you know, having that conversation, like you got to do your part? Like, was there like a limit to how many kids you want to have because you've seen so many, you had so many siblings, you probably didn't want to be in that situation? Like, how did you even have that conversation with him?
I think for me, my goal was that just because of my background, I was determined to do things the right way. It was like it has to be with the same person. And funny fact, actually, we had our firstborn is 11, and he was actually we we were not married when the first one was born. And I always felt that stigma, you know, when you go to church and you're pregnant and you don't got a ring on, the pastor actually called me, was like, hey, you know, are you, you know, what's going on here? And I was like, oh my God, like, are you serious? And, you know, like the aunties and stuff, they look at you, you know what the look is about. And it's like an elephant in the room. And I was like, oh my God. But then like eventually, like a year later is when he proposed. No, he proposed when I was pregnant. And then, so we were engaged when he was born, but then we got married a year after he was born. But I'm a dumb person. I talk about him, and so we knew what we was doing when we were dating, you know, like we can probably have a kid possibly. So that conversation had to be had because I wanted to be on the same page. Because I've seen a lot of times, like, you know, like in movies and things, you could like have an accident or whatever and get pregnant. And if you didn't talk to the guy about it, he may be like, well, I don't want the kid. And then I didn't want that to happen to me because I was like, ain't no way I'm about to repeat history. Ain't no way. Like, there's no way. If I could fight it as hard as I can be in control of my life despite where I came from, I'm going to do it. So we had that conversation, and he was in support of, you know, doing what he's supposed to do as his role as a dad. And then I guess like, so after our firstborn, then we're like, okay, let's wait for like 4 years until the first one's out of diapers, potty trained. We don't gotta buy diapers to kids. So we're like, okay, 4 years. So we planned it. So then the next one was born, and then after the next one was born, we're like, we don't know if we want kids again. And then we decided to do it again. And now we're officially done because I don't think I'm not gonna have a girl. That's what I want. I want a girl so I can, you know, be a mom to a girl. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm not willing to try again because that's a risk, and that's a big risk. So
what if he wanted daddy's girl? What if he came on me saying, well, you know, Ebony, I want to try for my princess.
So we tried 2 times, and you know, the aunties would be like, do it in this position, do it at this time, do it here, do it. And we did all of that. It didn't work.
Joke was strong, man. Hey, look, I don't blame you. I know a guy, and God bless them. They're great people. I grew up with them in church. Actually, they had 2 of their sons drafted in the NFL, and one of them was drafted in Major League Baseball. But that's what the wife did. She kept trying, and she kept trying. I think they probably got like 6 boys. And then they got the one girl at the end, and they stopped because that's what she wanted. She wanted that girl. So, hey, man, that's awesome for them.
So let me ask you this: now that you guys are married, now that you guys have some, you know, some years in, what is your daily like? What is your role? Like, what do you think your role is? Like, what is your role? Like right now, me coming in, right? Let's say I just met you guys, and I'm thinking about getting married, and I don't know what the woman role is. What would you tell me the woman role is in the marriage?
First,
don't answer at the same time, okay? Because I got quiet.
You want to go, Anthony?
Caprice, you want to go first? You can go first.
I think Caprice should go.
Caprice is passing up a lot of these questions.
Yeah, I think Caprice, you should go.
So, I mean, well, I'm still learning what my role should be in a marriage. I think the role in a relationship is definitely different from being married. So again, I'm still learning. I have a few friends. I have one of my best friends and her husband. Jojo, you familiar with them? Tamika Brown and Sean Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Adore their marriage, and I just, you know, just listening to people who I know who have a healthy marriage, mm-hmm. that I listen to and see, you know, what my role should be in a marriage, so I can continue to have a healthy marriage as well.
You know, and you know, before Ebony, you answer that question, I wish it's like you could ask your mom that question and see what she give you, but you already know what your response is going to be, and that's, you know, and that's, to me, that's not what I would want to look for you. You know what I'm saying? To an extent where, as as your mom is, and she's a strong woman. I'm not saying anything wrong. She's a strong woman that is very independent. And you know, I don't know what her upbringing was for her to be able to have that mindset, but you know, to me, that would be a perfect person for you to ask more so than. And not saying anything from Tamika because I see them all the time. Her and Sean, the beautiful couple. But you know, people like your mom and them, because their time frame of them getting married, they had more of a stability more than we did. They had more like a structure than we did. So that would have been like the first person I would like tell you, like, go to your mom and them and ask. But I mean, given this situation, I know exactly what
But
it
you
is.
can still learn a lot from a nigga.
You can.
Because what it do is it'll give you a mindset and it'll give you an overview of like, okay, I can see, like, well, my biggest thing is I'd say get knowledge, get wisdom, but all you get understanding. So doing something like that will give you an understanding of where she came from, why she thought like that, and how you would maneuver moving forward. So I still think it's a great question to ask just to get the background and the insight from that, you know?
I'll definitely ask that question.
Yeah.
And Ebony, I know, Ebony, you got 10 years in, man. And Ebony, you got a very unique situation because you were born and raised here to some degree, right?
Right, yeah, that was.
Okay, and then you know, I'm African with you, I'm Ghanaian with you, so I know the roles. I know the roles. I've seen the roles. I've shared this many times on this podcast. My dad was there, but my dad wasn't there. My dad did not show my mom no affection. My dad did not show us no affection. My dad did not do what I felt like my dad should have been doing. Was he a great provider? 100,000% hell yes. Was he a great father? Hell to the no. To the point where at some point in my life, I resented my dad. You dig what I'm saying? So, you know, my role as a man, as a husband for my wife and my kids now is predicated off of what my dad didn't provide for us, right? So in your situation, given the fact that, you know, you had that upbringing in American culture and also you had that upbringing in Ghanaian culture, what is your role? Like if somebody was that, because I know my mom, she refers to my dad as Mira, which means like my master, my Lord, or something like that, you know, in the tree. And if I might be saying, you know, if anybody's watching this that I'm saying this incorrectly, you know, correct me. But it meant pretty much like my Lord, right? So even the title is really different. How did you and how do you view your, you know, your role right now?
That's a great question. I want to be transparent and not say I just act. I haven't really sat down and thought about what my role is, but there's certain things that I do that I know that I do. For example, actually when we started dating, I didn't know how to cook. I made him rice and it was hard and he like forced himself to eat it just to be nice, not to embarrass me. So you know how like in Ghanaian culture is like the woman has to cook. It wasn't that kind of thing at all because I didn't know how, and I learned as we continued, you know, our relationship. As a woman, I mean, just based off how like society is, like societal views, you know, there's certain things that a man is supposed to do. Like, you know, man's supposed to provide for his family, stuff like that. I don't solely rely on him to do that because I don't want. He's a man and he has feelings and he gets tired. I'm not gonna say him be like, yeah, the man has got to work. I stay home and take it. No, I don't think our dynamic is like typical. We equally do things, not equally because sometimes one is more, but we kind of like just flow. For example, he cooks sometimes, he washes laundry sometimes, he washes dishes sometimes, and I do the same thing. I would say I do most of it, but there's no like set like, okay, I'm never gonna do this because I'm the man, and so there's no like, we don't have that. But there's certain things that I know, like I will never try to belittle him or make him look like he's not the head of the household. Like that's something I would just never do. You know, like there's certain things like that I will never cross. But there's like normal day-to-day like things like upkeep of the home and like raising the kids, things that we just both do because we're a team. Like sometimes we're like, all right, you got this, it's time. Like, we got 3 hours when the kids come home, we got to bathe, dinner, homework. Okay, let's do this. Because we do it so that we can, when it's time to go to bed, we have time for ourselves to relax and, catch up. So it's not like, okay, you're responsible for feeding this kid and doing the homework. And then because we want to finish at around the same time so we can just be free and relax. So that's how we do things. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
I'm not gonna lie, Ebony, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. And I say I'm jealous because I wish to God I had that type of insight and wisdom going into it. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that, things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And I'm grateful because I learned some of those and more now. You know what I'm saying? So to hear that, you've been applying these things and it has been working for you for 10 years is amazing. You know what I'm saying? So, I can only hope and wish that when it's my opportunity that I can practice these same things. And because a lot of things that you're saying is some of the things that I had to learn afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like
me too, though. It wasn't me too. It wasn't in the beginning, though. You learn as you grow, but over time, trial and error, then you figure it out. So, yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So, what have you guys ever experienced a moment? And if y'all feel like sharing it, open enough, like where y'all was reaching a breaking point, where it's like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore, or something happened where it's like, nah, we out of here. And because you obviously stayed together, what was it that made you stay?
Well, I haven't reached that point in my marriage yet. No.
Well, even in 20 years.
Absolutely.
You guys are basically married. I think there's this thing called civil marriage. Like when you're together for so long, you're basically like married. So y'all just officially did it like 6 months ago. You guys are technically married.
Yeah, absolutely. I've reached that point a lot of times where I just felt as though I washed my hands and I was just done. But he ain't never.
What was it though? Like what caused that situation, if you don't mind sharing?
Just different things, communication, trust, just a lot of different things that I'm sure he felt the same way. Just like different things that I just felt like I was done with trying to repair. To think, because at one point I didn't think that we were going to actually ever get married.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, yeah, I'm not about to waste my time with this anymore. Like, I'm a good woman. I can give me somebody else. So I've always had, when we were going through that time in our life, so as though I just wanted to just be done. Like I said, communication, cheating.
Wow.
Yeah.
You or him?
Huh?
You or him? Well, you said he was the only one you was with, so you kind of like told on that already. So
I said, huh?
You said he was the only one you was with, right? That's what you said earlier.
Say that.
Maybe I'm just
is by
okay, I got you.
Yeah.
That's what I.
But the way she looked means that.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, we're gonna leave it
at that.
I tried to bail her out of that one, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna save her. That's my girl. I gotta save her, man. That's
what happened. Like, so all right, now you went through all this. So now, what was it that made you say, "We're gonna keep going"? Like, I really want this.
Yeah, because before you answer that, it's really important that those who are watching, again, it's not a right or wrong answer. This is something that worked for you, right? And I think the reason why I stopped before you answer this question is because a lot of people run away from the minor things in relationships. I don't need you to have a title for me to say that we are in a committed relationship. Right. I knew I was in a committed relationship the day after, I went out with my wife and she's still there. And I'm like, she's still here. I knew she didn't leave. So I was like, damn, she won't go home. I knew from there. You get what I'm saying? So nowadays, the littlest thing, like one of the questions that I have after you answer that question that is going to be really important because, like I said, it's the smallest thing. So for you saying something like cheating, which is like trust thing, right? And or just changing up how certain things were done. Even the way he communicated with you might have changed. What made you stay? Why didn't you leave? And you can find somebody else to be with. You could have did all that, but you stay. What was it that made you feel like it was worth you fighting for and staying?
I mean, because I always have to look at what outweighed the bad. And I really think that it was just something that we both had to work on within ourselves. Um, Communication is always the key. And I think once we start communicating more with each other, a little bit more understanding. And of course, it was, the love. And at one point, it was because I felt as though that we had to be together for the kids.
Hmm.
It was a lot with we had to be together for the kids. I don't want to raise my kids with a dad that lives there or I live here and we have to do the rotating weekends and so forth and so on. So it just as we grew together, communication got better with each other, and I love them. So it was just that.
Okay, Miss Ebony, you got anything for us?
I'm trying to remember the original question.
Like, what did
It
y'all ever have like a
was
strain on y'all relationship,
Like a breaking
and what,
point.
yeah, like a breaking point, and what made you stay together?
a breaking point, no, but times where I was really, really mad, yes, because I used to have a very, very bad temper, but I knew that if I took that into like being married, it wouldn't work. Like it, because yeah, I I'm a Taurus and I can
Oh
just
my,
be very angry.
yeah.
So I had to learn because I didn't want that to mess it up. So I had to learn to control that on my own, like, handle my anger. So like it could be something stupid, not stupid, but something that I feel is that really bothers me strongly, but maybe to him it's not. But I would get really mad over it. And so yeah, I just had to like, that's my work, my inner work that I had to do to monitor that and make sure that it didn't seep into my marriage. But uh haven't really got to like a breaking point. Um and I hope not to get to that point. But
It's
yeah.
taking out the trash at broken point for us people that get chewed up, not taking the trash like myself. It's taking the trash out to leave something for you to nag about.
Yes.
No.
Well, you better stop
Oh.
getting yourself in trouble, man.
Hey man, I'm like 0-3 on that question, man.
Yeah, I'm about to say you stop getting yourself in trouble. They ain't gonna jump the comments in the section in a
I know
second.
she is. I had to shout out to my wife. I had to throw that out. There she go. Hey, look, hold on. There she go. I'm gonna take her on right now. Peace out, man. Oh, hold on. They commenting now.
Oh man.
Oh man, I'm 0-3, y'all. So let me ask you this, both of you ladies, this question: Is finances of him making more or making less than you, is that important to you in this in the marriage?
No.
No.
Okay. If you say no, do you view him less of a man if he's making less than you?
No.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So then
Because
What is the man?
we're a team. We're a
So
team and we're just supposed to work to be comfortable for our family life to be comfortable and have peace. So it doesn't matter who works what, as long as the money's getting made. Now, if you lazy and you don't work and you're doing minimal things to get by, that's different. But if you're contributing, actively contributing, and you are working like you're supposed to, that's we team, and both of our money will allow us to have the life that we want, and that's all that matters.
Caprice?
I agree. I agree.
so I would say, how this is a question we came in from Rachel. It says, how is the communication in your marriage now? Like how do you feel like the communication is flowing? How do you communicate in your marriage to now?
Well, our communicating now is, I think, is so much better than what I've ever experienced in the 20 years that we've been together. Since we've been married, the communication has been like top tier to me.
What caused that? And was that the deciding factor in y'all getting married?
I don't know.
It just happened.
It just
Somebody sprinkle some fairy
I'm
dust
with
on that.
Capri. I'm with Caprice with that.
It just happened. Man, y'all giving me therapy. I just want y'all to know that. Y'all giving me a lot of therapy tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's a lot that I'm learning in regards to the roles because, you know, me coming in, I saw my mom doing the cooking and the cleaning, taking care of the kids and the household. My dad just worked and, you know, did other things outside of the house that, you know, I've always shared in the podcast. So, you know, before I got married, I was expecting the same thing. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing my mom did was, you know, she always used to say that she wanted us to learn how to cook. And I thought that was just the strangest thing. She didn't say clean. She didn't say, you know, wash clothes. She always said, I wanted my boys to learn how to cook. So that way, if they got with a woman that didn't know how to cook, at least they know how to cook for themselves to survive in their relationship. You know what I'm saying? So me personally, I took on that role, you know what I'm saying, as the cook in the house, you know, because I felt like, you know, if my wife can cook, I should be able to cook. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes about the role, we talked to the guys the last time we talked to the guys, and they were giving some cookie cutter type of answers to some degree where, you know, it sounded too good to be true to some extent, right? So like, how do you deal with like when you are upset at your husband, like, or you know, like what are some of the practices that you do?
I don't say.
Oh, I tell him, I'm like, you're annoying. You're mad annoying,
Oh,
and
okay,
I need
hold
a break from
on.
you.
So, Ebony, you tell him that you annoyed. Caprice, you just don't say nothing. So which one do you think works is more effective?
Say it again.
Which one do you think is more effective? The staying quiet like an assassin or coming in like
The silent killer.
Yeah. The silent kid, he hates that.
So if
So
you know
he'll
you hate
make
it,
you.
then why do you do it then?
Because it's more effective and it's gonna get his attention. I can answer that. I can answer that as a man. Ain't nobody trying to sit. What he said? The Bible said it is better to live in the corner of the roof, than live in a house with a contentious woman. That's what the Bible says. So that's why he hate that. You're like, you know what? Let me get some peace back in my house. Let me find out what the heck going on. You know what I'm saying? I could answer that one.
Ebony, what's your take?
We used to be pros at silent treatment. Like he's an Aries, I'm a Taurus. We're both stubborn. Like in the beginning stages, man, it could be like a week and we just not talking. We just quiet. And no one would break because we're being stubborn, of course. But then as you know, like as you get older and get more experienced in terms of like living with someone and sharing that space and knowing how to communicate, you shift. But that was some interesting times. Like I tell him that you're being annoying. I just like walk away, and he's like, well, how am I being annoying? Or if he doesn't feel like he's being annoying, I mean, we just go our separate places and then come back. But I think it's good in our marriage to be transparent and say that, because it puts it on the radar. Like, okay, man, whatever I'm doing, maybe I need to shift or stop what I'm doing because she just told me that I'm being annoying, or he just told me I'm being annoying. So then, okay, let me stop. And that works for us. But yeah, we just say it straight up. Like, you're being annoying. You need to stop.
Let me ask you this question. If you were going out with your girlfriends, right? And you had an outfit on that was, a little, as he may look at it as, being a little bit too sexy. If that's the right word, I may be using it the wrong way. If he says, look, I need you to change that, you gonna walk out or you gonna change?
I'm changing.
Okay.
I'm changing. I'm not about to disrespect him. If he feels uncomfortable,
real women on here tonight, man. We got some real ones on here tonight.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I'll be honest with you. Because you watch some of these internet shows, I think a lot of that stuff is cap, bro. It's either a lot of that stuff is cap or a lot of that is just ignorance. Because in my experience, real women, in which listening to them, they sound like real women. They understand these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's the reason why a lot of them are single and they're not happy and they are the way that they are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that.
Yeah, because you put I done seen some responses before, and it's like I think we on the podcast when we had to. I'm not changing because this is what he met me in, and this. I'm sitting there like,
yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but you can listen to them and tell it. I can tell they don't give you that kind of answer. But they ain't saying you. So if they was crazy, I'm telling you, we would have got some. I'd have got some crazy questions for you if you gonna go crazy. But I would have a question. So other women now, like that's looking to get married or want to get married, what advice would you give them to, in order for them to be successful in their marriage?
Me personally, I would say go for it.
That's it. Just go for it. Like you won't give them any advice.
Open communication. That's just the biggest thing to me. Open communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
So
biggest
what happens
thing.
if you feel like, because I know how I feel as a guy, right? Because there's a lot of times I've had plenty of conversations, and my thing is I feel like a contract, right? Like marriage to a certain degree, relationship to a certain degree is like a contract. I'm gonna give you the whole outline and the overview of the job description. And what I found out is weird because a lot of people feel like, oh, I can do this, and this is what works for me. You seem like you're a nice guy, so let me try these things. But then when I try to go back and communicate and say, hey, this is not being upheld, and these things, these points of views, and these things like that, what we agreed upon is not being met. And when I'm trying to have these conversations, and then it's like you're being rejected and things like that, like how like that makes you feel? You're saying be open to communication, be communicative, but when you're open and you're communicative and it's not being receptive, like how do you handle that?
I don't. Again, so when I speak on things, I'm speaking on like my relationship more so than my marriage, because a lot of things I haven't, experienced being married versus in a relationship. So in a relationship, even in a committed relationship, I still looked at some things different than I look at us being married now.
Interesting.
Even if it was, because our relationship was we were in a relationship for so long, I still look at it different from me being married to him now.
That's interesting.
If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I find it very interesting. I got some other questions that I don't want to ask online, but I have a lot of questions. But I find
it Caprice, it does, because even from my perspective, when I got married, a lot of things changed. When my wife and I wasn't engaged to my wife long. I had gotten in trouble. I got locked up in 2014. Everybody know I'm not shy to talk about my past, because my past is where I am right now. I got locked up. I was going to propose to my wife 2014. 2014, I was immature. I wasn't right. I wasn't the best version of what I am now. I wasn't in tune with my spiritual side as I should have. I was a liar. I was a manipulator. I was everything that I hated my dad for. I was in that relationship at that time when my son was born. So everything changed when I took my vows. You know what I'm saying? It's like even my wife changed, and she probably wouldn't admit it. Like me as a man, I know what's up. You changed. You know what I'm saying? Because there were some things that she promised me that would be different in my marriage that is not. But there was some stuff that I had to adjust to, because, it wasn't the main reason why I married, but it was one of the reasons why I was getting married. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things do change. And I think the misconception for people is that you can be in a relationship for 50 years. Once you say I do, it's a whole different place. It's just something about that commitment that you actually, is like a promise that you're making in front of everybody. So it changes a lot. The conversation changes. The way even how you look like changes. The sex changes. Everything changes. A lot of people won't tell you that. It changes a lot. You dig what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where if you are going to get married, if you are planning to get married, and if you are in the process of getting married, don't think it's going to be the same way as it is now. You know what I'm saying? Because the roles might even be reversed. He might be a breadwinner, but we don't know what happens. He might get sick, and now you got to take on that responsibility. Or he might lose his great job that he had, and now you got to take on that responsibility. He may never recover from that position of being a breadwinner ever again in your relationship. How do you view your man now? It's a lot of things that change.
Right.
But it's the perception of the things that we put in the atmosphere. Like Aaron was saying that, you go on some certain shows and they make it seem like they just got no respect. And I know they got respect. I know they got some self-respect for themselves. But it's just the way that it make it seem like it's like, damn, are you really even human? You dig what I'm saying? So it definitely changes. And I had to experience it in a way where Caprice, I had to, you know me from high school, you know what I'm saying? The anger, like what? 0 to 100, not even in the 6 seconds. It was a go. Everything was a go. I looked at everything as a threat. But as I got with my wife, I had to learn how to trust. I had to learn how to love. I didn't know how to love because my dad never showed me how to love. He never showed me how to be affectionate towards my mother. And I hated my dad for that. And I started becoming what I hated for my dad. So 2014, when I thought that was the right year, no, it was not the right year. It was 2017. It might have been 20 years that you was with him. No, it wasn't the 20 years. It was maybe the 21st year. You get what I'm saying? But things do change. And I'm so grateful to God that things have changed for you guys because you said you don't even know what happened. You do know what happened. God happened. Something about your relationship that you've been praying about happened. You dig what I'm saying? So, man, for you that is watching right now, don't be confused. It's definitely going to change, man.
You, Ebony, anything? Any advice you would give any aspiring women to get married?
Aside from communication, that's definitely the biggest factor because that is what holds everyone down. I would say compromise. There's going to be things that you just don't want to do or things that are not in the forefront of what you plan. But if you know that it makes your partner happy and you know that it could be a positive result for you all, then, just roll with the punches and do it. Because you would expect for example, my husband, at first he was not really communicative. Like he would just shut down, and we had talks and talks and talks and talks, and over the years it's gotten so much better. Like when Caprice was talking about communication, I was like, yep, because like I definitely know what it feels like to when you're starting off and you don't really have that, and then you build towards that. And I think it was a compromise for him too, because it was something he was not used to. He was not used, when you're he just wasn't used to openly communicating, or so it's like something he had to learn, and how to learn. And I had to support him, and not always like nag him like, you didn't say this, well, you didn't do, like, provide him the space and just help him to get to that point. And now things are just like so much better than before. So compromise and being truthful, being honest. Sometimes honesty hurts, but you take it and do what you with it. Yep, that's what I think.
This is amazing. I'm telling you, I really hope that someone or someone's with plural got something out of this, because I'm not lying. This is like therapy for me. I mean, even some things that I felt like as a man, like even the principles that I'm standing on makes me want to go back and like have some communication and some further understanding on some things. So yeah, I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, I definitely like I said, most of the time when we get on this podcast, I'll be like, man, I be feeling the conversations for me. Even though I've been married, for a while now, it's still a work in progress. There's no perfect marriage. And it's funny because when I put the request, I'm like, yo, I'm looking for some great wives of great married, women to come on and speak. Everybody was like, why great? Well, why not thinking yourself?
Right.
You're a great person. You were the one chosen above all the rest. So you feel some sense of pride in a good way. Right. Even though we know we all are working in progress, we understand that, I may not be the best looking guy. I don't care. But in her 2 eyeballs, I may be the, The guy, you know what I'm saying? I might be the guy of this.
Talk your ish, son. Talk your ish.
Yeah, so hey, it is what it is. In high school, some people turn me down and say, "No, hey, she saw me after high school. She said, yeah." So I'm grateful for that. You get what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciate you guys coming on and being great married women. And I pray that God continue to bless your marriage and your union. Give you guys more insight, more knowledge about what you guys are on. That spirit of confusion that the devil put in our marriages, I cancel those out in y'all marriages so that way y'all can have more fruitful. And Ebony, you can have your princess coming soon, when you guys, try a different way. But yeah, man. So definitely would like to thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys have been such a blessing to me. And I know men that are going to be watching this, if you are looking for a wife, maybe some of these are the qualities you want to look in that wife, for that wife. I mean, in the sense of, listening to them, communicating with them, being, compromising, because I know I had to compromise. I'm getting chewed up out the trash can right now. And tomorrow's trash day, so I know as soon as I jump off, I got to make sure the trash is taken out. If not.
That's right. Good job, my man. Yes.
Yeah, look, but I'm giving in, man. I'm giving in, Aaron.
You have to, bro. Ain't no need fighting it. There's no need fighting that, bro.
I'm giving in. So it is just something like we like to do on our podcast where we do our final notice. Oh, you don't put that back up.
Hey, look, you won't even put that one on there. I just want to make
sure. It is
sure.
something that we do.
I'm giving her the amen that you're saying. Give you the amen.
It's something that we do on our podcast.
Amen.
Every podcast, every episode that we do is we do our final notice. Starting with Caprice, what is your final notice for somebody that is watching, this podcast and is going to hear a lot of the things that you said today? And it doesn't have to be necessary about what we talked about, but just some type of encouraging words or something that you want to, put out there for somebody to take.
Be blessed. Keep God first.
Amen. I know that's right.
Miss Ebony?
Be teachable. Be teachable. Be teachable. Yes, because when you're teachable, I'm not going to go on, but be teachable. That's it.
That's what's up, man. I got so many questions. I've been through so much stuff. Bro, I tell you, man, this is awesome. This has been awesome.
Well, my final notice for this today is I'm gonna say what I said a couple last week. If you're a deadbeat dad, and if you out here ain't taking care of your kids, and your kids are still alive, and you have some time to change, do something now because you don't know what those kids are going to be. And you don't want to be sitting around one day saying that I wish. I talk bad about my dad, but now I have a relationship with my father because I didn't pick my dad. So whatever he didn't do, I try not to do for, towards my kids. But I try to have that relationship with him. Even though it's his job to have the relationship with me, I took that initiative to have the relationship with him. Now, my dad calls and just want to talk. Maybe talk about nothing, but at least he calls me. You did what I'm saying? So if you're a father out here that ain't taking care of your kids, ain't been doing it for a long time, and you have the opportunity to do so, it is better for you to have a great title as a man than to have that title as a deadbeat dad.
Mm-hmm. I guess my final notice would be raise your standard, and it's okay to raise your standard. That's one of the things that I've had to deal with in life and understand in life is that you don't have to continue to accept the bare minimum. You don't have to accept any old thing, that's why you have to really be careful, like soul ties, you know what I'm saying? And when you bond with somebody and build with somebody and they come into your life and you're asking for certain things, like it's okay to lift up and set a higher standard for yourself and them. And the people that's supposed to be there will do that. And they will be a part of your life. And the ones that won't, they won't. Since we start this podcast is one of the things that I dealt with, just like professional life. I had to let 2 people go out of my life simply because of the way they talk to me. And I'm not making no excuses. I'm not humbling myself. And it's not, and I be careful when I'm saying these things because a lot of people use that as pride. And I hate when they do that. Because I never want to use pride as a way of trying to build myself up. I always try to build myself in humility. But at the same time, if you raise your standard, you know what I'm saying, you don't have to fuss at anybody. You ain't got to make no post on Facebook. You ain't gotta do any of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just, I just calmly and respectfully just start speaking to them. And if they speak to me, I'm gonna say hi. I'm gonna keep going about my business. But at the same time, I'm raising my standard because I know the type of person and the type of quality that I have in my life. So I'm not gonna allow anybody to just mistreat me and do whatever. And that last part maybe sounds cliche, but it's true.
Well, definitely would like to tell you, ladies, thank you so much for coming on. It's definitely been a pleasure. It's definitely been a lot of informative conversations we didn't had. Miss Caprice, Miss Ebony, man, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Miss Ebony, how can they follow you on your business page? And if Caprice, you got something going on, let me know so that way I can shout it out on the next podcast.
Okay.
But Ebony, how can they follow you on your page again for those who are that tuned in late?
Also, for my indoor-outdoor picnic business, you can follow me on Instagram. Also, it's so it's WUCODMV. And then on Facebook, the name is long, is Whimsical Utopia, but yeah, it's too long. I can't spell it out.
So, do you got a Facebook or something that we can connect?
Yeah,
on
for
Facebook.
Sure.
Okay. What's your name on Facebook? Like, how do they get you on Facebook? Maybe they can friend you.
So my Facebook is N as in Nancy, AA. Oh yeah, it's up. It's up now.
All right.
That's
IG and Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool, awesome,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So the viewers are looking for a part 2. So we definitely have part 2 coming up on Sunday. We have other man. Hey Caprice, man, you'll be surprised, man. The inbox was. I know my wife was looking like, who's these people inboxing you? And I said, hey, slow down, woman. This is not nothing. These are women that want to come
not get in trouble.
And share their bold experience about what's going on and what's working for them. But we have to have a part 2 because I feel like as a man, our perception of the way things are is different now. Women are doing a lot of great things. And I think as a husband or as a man, we have lost our way. And the only way we can figure out our way is for us to communicate and also listen to our women as they speak so that way we can educate and grow from that. So I feel like that part 2 is warranted where we have other women come on and share what their experiences are. So Sunday we will have a part 2 at 7 p.m. live interacting as well. And if you guys want to come back on, please feel free. We'll dive down into different questions because there's a lot of questions that we want to ask because as men, we want to be able to treat our wives better, treat our women better. So we want to learn. It's just because you're a leader doesn't mean you can't learn. You have to learn how to be a leader. So being a great leader is listening. So we have to listen to
learn how to follow. Yes. So
that way we can follow the steps and making sure that we are having these healthy conversations within our marriage. If you're tuning in, thank you so much for coming on. We definitely appreciate all the viewers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Finding Orders Podcast on YouTube, and also follow us on Facebook Live. Hit the notification buttons whenever we do go live and have great conversation and great, awesome people to come on. You can get that, get that nugget. You can get that blessing from the conversation. We thank you guys so much for coming on. Again, much more respect and blessings to your marriages and your union. Thank you again for coming on, and I'll definitely be sending you guys an inbox message, expressing our gratitude for you guys coming on again today. Anything anybody want to say before we go off now?
Look at the last comment.
What's the last comment say? She rolled her eyes. I seen it. I'll be cool, man. I'll be cool. I'm not worried. Aaron,
I know, man. I'm just picking on you, bro. Listen,
I am not worried.
I can get it off now because I ain't in your seat. Once I get in your seat,
Hey, Caprice.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. All I gotta go do is go get some Stella Rose. She likes the watermelon flavor. That's all I gotta get. Stella Rose, we'll be all right, man. It'll be all right.
Man, you're not supposed to reveal the secrets, bro.
It's not a secret because somebody put me on, man. Shout out to my sister Geneva, man. Shout out to Geneva. Geneva put me on, man.
I got you.
Shout out to my big sister, man. Love you.
Your real sister said, look, your sister said that, look.
Don't forget the. Oh, come on, Rashida. Hey, before we go, Rashida, thank you so much. Rashida do our flyers. So she put our flyers
yes.
together.
Thank you so
Rashida,
much.
you're awesome. Thank you so much for the support. And hey, shout out to Dana, my wife. She also create the rooms and everything. She's the producer behind the scenes. She does a wonderful job. So definitely thank you so much, Dana. Appreciate it. Love you for that. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a great conversation. But we're gonna have to let you guys go because I know your husband's like, man, where y'all at? Y'all need to get good. Go put that food on the stove, man.
I definitely didn't start cooking that.
There you go. Look at that. Amazing.
All right, ladies. Thank you guys so much.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
y'all
Thank
have a
you
good
too.
night.
Take
Thank
care.
you, everybody.
You too. Bye.